Shanks is a beloved character from the start who stands at the precipice of destiny, and as the story races towards its end, Shanks takes center stage, adding spice to the grand finale. A powerful character on a quest for the legendary One Piece. However, whispers of an impending demise cast a shadow over his journey, leaving us anxiously awaiting the final saga, wondering if this icon will meet a tragic end. From the start, Shanks has played two major roles in One Piece so far, and both of them are intertwined. The very first role that Shanks played was to put Luffy on the path to becoming the Pirate King. This happened at the very beginning of the story when he stole the gum gum fruit from the world government. As soon as he stole it, he was seen setting up camp in the East Blue, and it was quite clear that Shanks had some plans for this devil fruit, even though he did not want to eat it himself. Perhaps, he intended to find the child of Gold D. Roger and feed this devil fruit to him. Regardless of that, the person who ended up eating this devil fruit was none other than Luffy, and given that Shanks had already seen something in him, he entrusted him with his trusty straw hat, and asked him to meet him at the very top where he could one day return the hat to him. This is, by far, the biggest role that Shanks has played in One Piece so far. There is also another role that he has consistently played, at least until up to the Wano arc of the story, and that is the role of a peacekeeper. Shanks has consistently tried his very best to avoid conflict and to prevent the era from spiraling into chaos. This was seen in the early parts of the story when he met Whitebeard and asked him to call back Ace, and later, when he entered the Paramount War and attempted to stop it. He was also seen meeting with the Five Elders, warning them about a particularly dangerous pirate, and he was also seen around Wano, preventing Green Bull from causing any harm to the country. It was quite clear for us to see that Shanks wanted to maintain peace, that is, until a certain point in the story. In the final saga, we were surprised to see the character of Shanks take a very interesting turn. We already know that Shanks would be extremely relevant in the final saga, given that Oda had himself mentioned this in the past. According to Oda, when Shanks started to appear in the story frequently, we could assume that the end of the story was now close. The fact that Shanks has appeared quite a lot in the final saga already all but confirms the fact that One Piece is in the final saga now. However, his appearance is not what is surprising. It is the shift in goals that he has shown recently. Immediately after the fall of two of the four emperors, Kaido and Big Mom, Shanks decided that it was time for him to move for the One Piece. In a conversation with Beckman right outside of Wano, he mentioned that it is time for them to enter the Great Game and claim the One Piece for themselves. While some of what he said can be lost in translation, it is believed that, in Japanese, the way Shanks refers to claiming the One Piece is much more aggressive than any person in the story has ever done before. This means Shanks is serious about getting his hands on this treasure and giving Luffy a run for his money. Shanks is one of the strongest pirates in One Piece, and that goes without saying. He is an incredible fighter who is proclaimed to be one of the shining stars in the New World, which is why he is one of the Yonko of the sea currently. We have also seen his power on several occasions before, and it is quite clear that he can hold his own against the vast majority of the pirates. In fact, he also has quite a decent shout to be the strongest in the entire world right now. With the fall of Kaido and Big Mom, Shanks possesses the highest known bounty on the seas. In fact, even with those two present, Shanks was never actually revealing his true strength. He was biding his time and not going for the One Piece, yet, despite all that, he possessed a tremendous bounty that was incredibly close to these two figures. Had Shanks always been in the game for the One Piece, perhaps, he would be the one declared as the strongest. Going for the One Piece also means that Shanks will attract more dangers towards himself. After all, in the great game for the One Piece, Shanks will have many enemies. These enemies start with the world government. As Shanks is a member of the Figaland family, that only means that he is privy to some secrets that should not be out there. Perhaps, the government itself will make an enemy out of him. However, the biggest enemy that he faces is none other than his old rival, Marshal D. Teach, also known as Blackbeard. In the final saga, we will most definitely see the major pirates on the move. In fact, they have already engaged in major battles in the Egghead arc. For instance, Shanks was seen crushing the Kid Pirates all by himself, and at the same time, Blackbeard was seen crushing the Heart Pirates by himself. These two characters are major players for the One Piece. Buggy is also a dark horse in the race for the One Piece and might as well claim it in the end. However, we can rest assured that he is not going to die, as his character simply does not have any death flags. Luffy is the main character and he certainly cannot die anytime before he becomes the Pirate King and throws a great party at the end of it all. The only main character that can die is Shanks. Thus death won't come out of the blue either. Shanks has had death flags on him ever since he confronted Blackbeard for the very first time. This meeting left him with 3 scars running across his face, and to this day, he knows that the scar aches. During the Paramount War, these two pirates almost confronted each other. However, Blackbeard mentioned that it was not time for them to fight just yet. In fact, even in Wano, when Shanks appeared, he was on the lookout for Blackbeard. In 𝚲𝚘𝚙𝚢𝚛, when Shanks destroyed Kid, he was about to set out to some place, likely related to Blackbeard as well. Everything that Shanks does concerns Blackbeard because he knows the danger that this person possesses. We might not consider Blackbeard to be dangerous at the moment, however, it is quite clear that he's one of the most dangerous people in the entire world, and what better way to showcase that than by killing the beloved red-haired pirate, Shanks. If these two characters end up fighting, Shanks will definitely not win, even if he's stronger. This is simply down to the fact that Blackbeard is an enemy for Luffy to take on and not Shanks. A confrontation between these two characters is inevitable, and when that happens, Shanks will either be defeated heavily or potentially even killed off. And that's it for today. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I also asked you to subscribe to help us. It will also help us to grow more, and if you like, please subscribe.